Hey y'all, it's Nomadic Shaman here. Thank you for visiting my page. I wanted to come through with a really quick message. But first, let's do a quick break, right quick. So here I am shuffling my cards, right? And I set them aside. And you know what the first two on the top deck, let me just show y'all right quick. Now, I've never did pull cards online. I usually do it offline. Okay. But bam, what does that tell you? Let me zoom out of this bitch. Exactly how it was positioned. Somebody's scared. Scared. All right. But anyways, moving on. moving on. I'm being silly. But the main reason why I came through in this video is because I saw a YouTube video that was on my timeline. And it was specifically speaking on this young lady who lived in Florida. And I believe that she was a waitress. She was in a club. And there was some guy that she spoke of in this video. I'm going to link it to this. But there's this guy that she spoke of by the name of Justin. And I believe she said Justin S. Now, she spoke about how she worked at a club. She lived, I believe, with her mom in Miami. And he had propositioned her, offer that she couldn't refuse. And was just like, what are your desires? What is it that you want? And I can make it happen. And she's like in her 20s, right? In somewhat of a desperate place or position because she's not earning money like she would like. And Miami's expensive. So anyways, she entertains a conversation and she's like, how? He said, all you got to do is I'm going to give you this information. Look out for this information on Telegram. Okay. For those who don't know, Telegram is like Discord. So it's like an app and it's very discreet. I don't know any more than that because I don't use it, but I remember speaking about this in one of my Gangstalking videos as a download, which is why I'm sharing this story. So anyways, Justin S. had mentioned to her that I'll send you all the information via Telegram. So then what he does is he takes a picture of her and then he makes fraudulent, driver's license. So at the time she lived in Florida, right? And she had a job as a traveling nurse. At least that was her job that she told. Now let me hurry up and get into the story. So one of the interesting things is Justin took a picture of her. Next thing you know, he's sending her all of her important documents, materials in this certain mailbox, right? And was instructed to pick it up at this mailbox. Here in this mailbox, she has different driver's license coming from different states, paperwork to back up that she's a traveling nurse and she makes X amount of money. Also paperwork to prove her residency, whether or not it was temporary or long-term. And then paperwork showing her billing paperwork, So the interesting thing in this video is her job was to go into banks and then open up a checking account, put in the most minimum amount to keep the checking account open, then come back and apply for a credit card. Once she got approved for the credit card, then would do a cash advance, get the money to her. So she would go to the bank, get a cash advance on the credit card she just opened with the bank. Once she gets that money, she then splits it up with Justin. So then Spirit was telling me there's a reason why we put this video on your timeline. Because this is connected to the very fraudulent activities, identity fraud, and forgery. This is what is happening, definitely in my case, as far as my gang stalking, as how they get money. One of the ways that they get money in a fraudulent manner. But this could also help other folks who may be going through gang stalking. Because remember, gang stalking is never isolated. It's an umbrella. It's like a huge umbrella, and the umbrella is organized crime. And there are so many different crime, civil, criminal that's going on in addition to gang stalking. So I thought that was very interesting. So basically, at the very end, one of the banks had raised a flag because there were maybe two or three people who had came to that same bank or branch, basically coming in and saying, we'd like to open a checking account here, put in the most minimal amount, then come back and say, we'd like to open a credit card. The next thing you know, they're doing a credit advance, getting the money. And what for the banker, for the teller, or the rep, what made her flag those accounts is she realized that there was a connecting thread in a pattern. And she looked into what were some of the purchases that were made after the gang stalking. I'm sorry, not gang stalking, but after they opened up their account and received their credit card, after doing the cash advance. And she noticed that within those same instances with the different people, that they had similar situations. They were coming in. They said that they were coming in from out of town, that they were temporarily living in Florida in an Airbnb to prove that they were their temporary residents. They had documents that showed the electric company. But when the teller or the rep was looking at the documents for the energy company, she realized that all the fonts were different, which told her that, hey, somebody's doing Photoshop in this bitch. So that's what made her flag the accounts, in addition to learning or discovering that all of these people had the same profession, traveling nurse, and was coming, sharing the same story. I don't live here. I'm only here temporarily because I'm a traveling nurse. And I live in such and such. And they ultimately discovered that there were so many other banks, not credit unions, a little bit more difficult, but still so many other banks that further investigation that they realized that these people had already hit up, and either they were successful in opening an account and getting a cash advance, or they were denied. Okay. So Spirit was telling me, this is connected to you because this is what they do. This is one of the many things that they do. Okay. And especially shit. And I definitely know within my circle, we got traveling nurses. Okay. But that's neither here nor there. So I wanted to share that part with you. The other part, I did have a couple of downloads and a couple of observations. The next thing that I'm going to go into is right now here, I was hoping that the new people who had moved downstairs come July 1st was not part of the Gangstalking campaign. Y'all, you remember when Tyra Banks was like, we were all rooting for you. We were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Well, I kind of was in the back of my mind, but I was just like, what are my chances that they won't be, right? So turns out the people who had moved out at the end of June were part of the Gangstalking campaign, and the new people who moved in come July of this year, 2025, are part of the Gangstalking campaign. But the one interesting thing, what nearly woke me out of my sleep, was because for those who are clairaudient, is one, I heard federal indictments. So this could pertain to my situation or anybody else who's going through gang stalking. So I heard federal indictment. I also heard open up FBI, which told me people are going to get raided up in this bitch. If it's not happening currently, it will come. Okay. It will come. I don't know whose house is going to be the first house. Okay. But it will come. So that's what I got. What else? The other interesting part is, remember when I did the one mediumship reading and I did automatic writing? Well, that happened to open the floodgates in the sense where since that session, I have been reached out to a lot of other spirits who have transitioned, um, and they want me to share their story. But more specifically, the people who have transitioned at the hands connected to my gang stalkers, okay? Or the people who answer to whomever within the hierarchy. And I've already broken that down in a previous video, so I'm not going to do it in this video. But more specifically, was done at the hands of this is what was told to me by spirit, not my spiritual team, but the actual spirits who passed away or transitioned at the hands of Mariah. Okay, there's this one. I'm not going to go into it, but there's this one spirit who did come to me, and she's a woman. She's a young lady, and she said, "I want you to tell my story." It's a lot, y'all. I don't know if I'm ready for that right now. I don't know if I'm ready for that right now, but stay tuned. I may change my mind, but we'll see. Because it's a lot, especially when a spirit has undergone that amount of trauma. And then, as a medium, you're not just simply telling their story. They show you what they experience, and then they make you feel it. So it could be a lot, So I'm not going to say I'm not going to do it. I'm just saying I'm going to put that on ice for right now. But that has been one of the many spirits that have come to me to ask me to share their story of how they transitioned. Okay, and it's a woman. Now, the other part that I wanted to share with you was okay, thank you. The other part that I wanted to share with you was I did get a download of trucking and transporting. So that being significant as far as a business and transporting goods. It could be a front, right? A business front, or it could be a method or route of how they transport goods. And then another part that I wanted to share was on Sunday night, this past Sunday, between the hours of 11 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. Someone opened the mailbox downstairs, and Spirit told me that it wasn't an individual mailbox, but it was actually opening up the entire mailbox. Okay, they were looking for a letter or something, and I'm asking Spirit, is this connected to me? They told me yes. So whoever came in on Sunday night between 11 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. opened up the key. Spirit told me it was like a master key. So use the master key to open up the mailbox to look for some type of letter that was in my mailbox. Okay. So that tells me that somebody got a key or a key made by the postal office if they're able to open up the whole entire key box. Okay. As opposed to an individual. So that's another thing. The last part that I want to share before this video gets too long, Spirit told me to share spiritual crimes. Now, I've already shared how people do crimes, conduct crimes physically, and then you add on the spiritual component. So they commit a crime, let's say identity fraud, some type of fraudulent, right? And then the spiritual component would be like to do spell work, to delay, to deter, to glamorize the justice system, to prevent them from going to jail. Okay. But one other thing, so that's an example of a physical crime and adding the spiritual component. Okay, so spiritual crime. But one thing Spirit told me that I'm like, oh, these people are out here doing this. So let me set up this scenario. Is, let's say somebody is looking to rob something or someone, right? So they'll have somebody physically do it to rob it, carry it out physically. But the spiritual component is they'll have somebody literally in their mind, in meditation and sleep, astral project into the space so they can see the lay of the land, where things are, where people are, if people are still there. Okay? In combination with somebody physically going in. And then they communicate. How do they communicate? Well, they can either communicate through digital means, but if both are spiritually gifted and hold the gift of telepathy, they can communicate in that way. Okay? And before anybody says, nah, I don't believe that shit. I forgot his name, but there was this guy who experienced an NDE, a near-death experience, and he was in the military, okay? And he was psychic, and he was also trained to do astral projection, but the military, he works for the CIA or worked for the CIA, but they called it remote viewing. So if I figure out his name, remember his name, I'm going to put it in the under this video, but it explains how someone can use their spiritual gifts or abilities to see things, see places, move around places, okay, before somebody physically goes in and carries out that task. And the military and the government use that shit, okay? It's documented. So I'll probably add that on this video too. But that was very interesting because I was just like, they're really doing that out here? And they were like, yeah, like in that type of way. And I just used the banking robbery as an example. They have people scope out the land before they physically have people scope out the land. And even during the act, they have people scoping out the land and communicating telepathically. Okay, so I thought that was very interesting. And so that will wrap up my video for tonight, y'all. Until the next one, peace, I'm out.